probably not getting changed this patch.
Definitely pay attention because there's some spicy stuff between all of the other balance.
And we'll start off with Amuzen Carb is the first one. AMC. He's going to see a couple of changes here. Bees, we're going to be decreasing.
Vamos ver os nerfs e buffs nos personagens.
9 to 5. What a way to make a living.
Yeah, that's per tick.
Per tick.
Per tick, sorry.
Which is pretty big.
I just got excited by 9 to 5 and it got
9 to 5.
Nerf na Amuzen Carb?
It's our fault. We should put the per tick there.
And then Swarm as well. Decreased base damage from 60 to 280 will now be 60 to 260. So a top end small change there.
What?
We've also decreased the physical power scaling from 80% to 70%. So small touches to AMC. He has been quite potent lately.
Yeah, out of the hunters we talked about, you know, while there's a lot of mage ADCs, AMC has been, you know, really
Posto vídeo de nerfs e buffs que horas?
as well as the mid lane. He's just one that
Daqui a pouco eu vou postar os itens. Deixa eu só editar aqui. E aí daqui a pouco os itens já estão lá no canal, beleza?
Hive kind of helps him throughout. He still does really well at almost all points in the game. So here we're hitting his early game with bees, and we're hitting his late game with a swarm change.
Okay. We'll see how that works out for AMC. Next on this list is Anher. Some interesting changes around her here. First of all, Shifting Sands. We're going to increase the damage buff from 4 to 20%. Will now be 8 to 20%, so definitely an early game buff for Shifting Sands. Not only that though, Impale, we've reduced the pre-fire time. It was 0.2, it's now going to be 0.17, so a 0.03 difference. Yes, I can do math sometimes. Which will match his animation is what it says here. Is that just makes it feel a little bit better?
When he threw, he looked like throw, and then a spear would appear in front of him and go. Now it feels more like as he's throwing, at the point where he'd let go of the spear appears and goes.
Okay,
it's
just a feel.
Well, you'll definitely feel it if you're an on-herb main.
It's a visual clarity.
And speaking of feels as well, looks like Desert Fury, we've added targeter effects while channeling this ability. Does that make it a little bit better for firing that Desert Fury off and feel like it's going to
there's a lot of different shots and some pretty different timings between them. You know, it's a little bit delayed. So now actually being able to see.
O Ru vai ter efeito agora para poder sinalizar se você está acertando o cara ou não, né? E aí, Arison, beleza? A Artemis Tank foi sensacional. Tem algum personagem que eles matarão com nerf? Não, no momento não. Obrigado por se inscrever no canal. Você ganhar com essas moedinhas que eu envio um avatar desses? Acho que não, Raoni, mas é só pra interagir na live mesmo. Pode ir mandando aí. Não tenho certeza, eu não tenho parceria, então não sei te dizer, cara.
And we also added 5 units of range to that ability.
Oh, I didn't miss that. I apologize.
But that is
5 extra range. That's
a
pretty good.
pretty impactful change as well.
It
That'll
is.
let you zone out people a little further to help you catch people.
That's more important.
It works really well with impale combos because it gives you a little bit more space to work with.
Yeah.
So,
cadê esse baú? Tá chegando a hora. Tá chegando a hora. Quem está no Streamcraft está, quem não está ainda tem alguns minutinhos. Chegando a hora. Tem um sinalizador de alvo na Ultimate agora.
The moves still adds 1 stack of Audacity for hitting enemy minions.
Right.
Is what it says here. So if you hit a god, you're going to get 2 stacks off that as well. So dashing in, you could potentially get your Audacity passive up a little bit quicker.
Or your 1 or your ultimate.
Okay.
If you land all hits
eu
on
perdi, eu não consegui ler, cara.
Almost instantly.
Really?
But we teased about Apollo a little bit, exactly. We're going to see it here. And one of the biggest things we talked about is passive. While it's fun, it's hard to always play around it, right? You get it up and then you use it.
Mas diminuiu, né?
Actually, the minion wave to try and get a little bit faster. But by adding Audacity, increasing mechanics to all of his abilities, his damaging abilities, which I think is important, because that means your mez is not going to be actually getting you any Audacity stacks. It means that he'll be getting access to attack speed more often.
Nos minions vai estocar uma vez só, né? Gostei do buffzinho no Apollo, eu adoro jogar de Apollo. Se você estiver de boa na sua lane e ver os Sirius avançando com Susana com Grevas, corra ou aceite a morte. Falei talvez. Não, não tem essa quantidade não, Ciro. Crio. Tem... Valeu, JV, muito obrigado pelo seu superchat.
Meu Deus do céu! The moves, his third
obrigado pelo susto também.
Increase the duration of the buff and debuff from this effect. It was 2 seconds. It's now going to go
to Apollo sendo buffado,
that's just going to be an additional quality of life thing.
Yourself and allies will now be
Quem esperava isso?
For an extra second, and enemies hit will be going slower for an extra
This helps his kit flow so much better. These gameplay demos of him alting down and just going from 0 to full stacks of his passive, that is awesome.
Very, very useful.
This is going to make the god feel way more consistent, give you a lot more control, and if you're hitting your abilities and paying attention to that passive, you're going to be doing a lot lot more damage with Apollo.
Apollo players unite. Thanks for that one, Caps in game. We'll move on then to Ares, and Ares is going to get a buff this patch as well. Not ready yet. Searing Flames. This ability now deals 5% max health per tick to non-boss minions. Only at all ranks. Sorry.
Only.
Só o Shibalan que é mais focado em ataque básico, eu acho que ele é híbrido. Antigamente eu pensava que ele era muito ataque básico, mas depois com a adição de alguns itens, tipo o Devorador de Almas, da forma que ele tá, o Triturador funcionando da forma que ele tá, eu acho que ele é híbrido. Caçadora de Corações também funcionando da forma que tá funcionando. Acho que dá pra fazer ele híbrido bonitinho. A Ares sendo bufada, hein?
Conquest Ares.
Clearing lane Ares.
Correct.
Doing lane and just, you know, going off to do back camps and stuff. I found that pretty difficult myself when I was playing him.
Ares sendo bufado, ganhando Clean Wave aí, ó, pra poder matar minions.
I'm a big fan of Ares, but he is really difficult to play in Conquest because of these.
Ok, senhor Ares.
So we did this a little bit with his chains, and that helped him a little bit, but we still have not seen much Ares in Conquest. Very, very little actually.
Deixa o Cronos como tá, como assim?
Pushing that envelope just a little further. It's a very exciting change.
After Ares then, we'll move straight on to Chak. Yes, that's a C for you guys at home playing along. Torrent decreased cooldown from 15 seconds to 13 seconds, so that'll be up a little bit more often. And Stormcall, the knockback from this effect now knocks enemies players straight up instead of away. That's a big change.
Big change.
Because before it was kind of used as a, escape situation,
it's technically a knockup, but a knockup that preserves momentum. Now it's going to be a knock straight up, so you're always going to be staying in the same place after that ultimate.
I think everyone kind of agrees that Chalk is like solidly okay. It has been for a long time and never really been fantastic. And we've been trying to add ways to make him a desirable pick. And one problem is that his ultimate is strong,
back dessa
but it always
habilidade agora vai jogar os inimigos para cima.
He doesn't get to do this
Mas eu não fazia isso.
good engagement play with his team. Now that they're knocked straight up, that's going to set up his team way better. So you're either going to get knocked straight up, and then they're still going to stay silent.
Yeah.
And it does a good bit of damage. So this is going to help Chalk's late game team fight, which is normally when he really drops off.
Eu entendi.
Like, he's a pretty
Meu
strong
inglês é uma
leader,
bosta.
and unless he shows up really fed, his late game is kind of underwhelming. So this is going to really help his late game team fight and help make Chalk a core asset in your Conquest team comps.
And the other thing we mentioned there real quick as well was Torrent cooldown down 2 seconds, so you can spin a little bit quicker.
O Wilix não puxava se eu acertasse a ult do...
Erlang Shen is the next one on the list, and that's going to be Spot Weakness. It looks like a bit of a nerf for the boy Erlang, and I think he needed it, to be honest.
Eles vão ser jogados só pra cima.
25 to 85 will now be 15.
Mas antes não era um no-back com um no-cup?
Heavy, boys. How come so heavy?
Put this in the meta nerf category.
Eu vou fazer o teste depois, porque... Sei lá. Pode ser que jogue os caras lá pra cima, lá no céu, né? Mas pra mim era um no-cup também, cara. Um no-cup com no-back.
He doesn't have to sacrifice much to do that damage, and part of that is due to Spot Weakness's base damage. Especially at early range in the jungle, you can gank really aggressively, you can build more defensive, and it's really hard for anyone to counter gank you, it's really hard for anyone to push Erlang Shen off them if he's on them, and so this will make Erlang Shen players have to
Tem alguém gritando na casa dos meu pai falando no telefone.
Or do I really want to commit to that damage?
Okay, well that's it for Erlang Shen. We'll move on then to Fafnir. Next got on this list, and it looks like a bit of...
Sim, pra cima e pra trás, agora só pra cima mais alto.
It's a shift, sorry.
Eu preferia pra cima e pra trás, mas vamos ver como é que vai ser, né? Vai que fica bom.
Increased the width of this ability from 6 units to 7, so it should be a little bit easier to hit this. And clear creeps with 2. And coerce decreased the
Nerfaram a Lanchen, cara. Sacanagem. Usa aquela build que eu falei, cara.
10% to 30%. And decreased bonus damage from 5 to 25% will now be 4 to 20%. So it is a shift, and it's like he loses a bit of his attack speed and power buff that he's getting from Coerce, but gets to hit his hammer a little bit more often.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This god is popular in SPL and nowhere else. And it's because the SPL players are good at using that Coerce. We're trying to help even him out a little bit more, trying to give him more widespread application to more players. So we want to make Curse Strength just a little bit more consistent. It is a slight change, but it'll matter. It will help.
Yeah.
It'll help him clear. It'll help him secure.
It also affects both forms, of course. So they're now going to be the exact
dragon and the dwarf.
Right. So dragon form will also have a bit.
It'll help him lock down enemies so his teammates can secure those kills.
Okay.
But Coerce is just an extremely potent team effect.
Yes.
So we want to be careful buffing Fafnir because even though he's really struggling in casuals, we've never been able to buff because SPL players are so good with him. He's very high skill cap character.
Understand, yeah.
So we're just trying to bring down that SPL focus just a little bit.
Yeah. And you may see some mixed messaging on
Funciona pra quem quer tancar o Alisson Costa. Geralmente pra guerreiros e guardiões. Funciona mais pra guardião porque aqueles itens lá funcionam todos nos guardiões, né? Por exemplo, Gente Cronos ele não tem pra guerreiro. Mas enfim, ela funciona. O princípio dela funciona em guerreiros e guardiões.
It's a bit different of a situation. Context matters.
Freya, next on the
Buffy
list.
Neff não faz
definitely been talked about God for the last billion years since release. So
não teve nada relacionado a Morgan.
And this week is going to be Aurora Blade, decreased range basic damage from 16 to 16.
Olha a Freya sendo nerfada. Sirius moscando. Eu tô em horário de trabalho, cara, então eu não consigo fazer live e trabalhar ao mesmo tempo, gente.
Early game, that base power makes her incredibly efficient, especially when she gets a single attack speed online.
Eles deveriam buffar o Jean todos os pets, que isso.
It just made her very difficult to box, even though she does clear the wave really aggressively. When you did try and actually box her, she also won the box trade.
Galerinha do Streamcraft, tá chegando a hora, hein? Se prepara.
Extra scaling makes her more towards the late game. I believe
late game,
about 600 power, you hit about 15 to 20 harder.
Se prepara que o baúzinho vai chegar, hein? 200 gemas pra PC ou Xbox. Eu prometi e vai acontecer.
15 damage per shot. Nerf in the early game. It's going to slow down her early game. That's what has been her major problem here. We know we've been messing with Freya for a really long time. We're feeling really good about how she's going to feel after this change.
A Freya sendo nerfada, cara. Agora bufada. Aumentado o range, escala da Aurora Blade, 10 para 15. Ela foi balanceada então, na verdade. A Isis não vai ter rework, ó. Tá sendo buff, vai ter só remodel.
We're trying to give Isis we're trying to target her individual abilities that feel underwhelming and give them.
Onde pega o baú? Eu não sei onde que aparece o baú, mas uma hora eu vou lançar o baú aí.
Let's see what they've done then. Funeral rites first of all.
Aumentaram o range da passiva dela, é isso?
30 units, it's going to be 40 units, so a little bit wider there. Spirit Ball. You can now refire Spirit Ball. This ability at any point after firing it. This includes while under the effect of crowd control and also whilst dead. I really like that, guys. It seems a little bit OP in one sense, but at the same time I can understand it because it's very frustrating that you couldn't necessarily cancel it early to get that stun or the damage.
It also was a little bit confusing because her ultimate had these rules already in place, so while you're dead or you're crowd controlled, you could already cast Circle of Protections. Spirit Ball was kind of the one that you always wanted to be able to do the same thing. If you get stunned by an assassin jumping on you and you've just fired your Spirit Ball, you really want to be able to pop that again. Also, coupled with this change, we remove the post fire from 0.1 to 0. This doesn't change anything with the animations, but will help a lot when you're trying to pop that Spirit Ball.
Tiraram o post fire dela. Agora você vai conseguir stunar os caras mais fácil se estiver próximo de você, cara. Vocês lembram ontem eu jogando contra o Thanatos que estava colado em mim e eu não consegui estourar a bola perto dele? Isso vai ser bom.
Provides a boost to magical protection. It instead provides a shield to Isis and nearby allies. The shield health will be 90 to 250.
Olha, vai dar escudo pra ela e pros aliados próximos.
Potency per additional target hit.
A Isis virou um suporte de verdade, cara.
So basically a shield for you and your teammates around you.
Finalmente ela virou um suporte.
So it's around you or the target. It follows Baron Somni's rules with the heal. So that way if people are all diving on one person and you're far away, you're trying to keep that range, you can dispel magic that target. They all get the shield.
Será que eles vão mostrar o remodel dela hoje?
They'll also get that.
E aí, Barbosa.
Basically, you just said. Okay. That's it for Dispel Magic, but still we move on to Circle of Protection next. Increase the base healing of Circle of Protection.
Ó, vai aumentar a cura da ultimate dela.
It's going to be 110 to 190. And also increase the mitigations obtained from 15 to 20% is now going to be 25% of all.
25% de mitigação em todos os ranks, ó.
That's great.
We had a lot of people telling us this ability.
A Isis não foi um rework, né? Mas foi um buffzinho com pequenos reworks. Ok.
So what we wanted to do was actually give it more applications to drop this in a siege scenario or a jungle boss scenario.
Easy Sup, nova meta. Não, acho que na dual lane ela funciona, cara. Eu já joguei com a dual lane quando eu jogava na NA no começo e funcionava, entendeu? Não tinha essa palhaçada de dual lane só vai guardião, não. Mas eu acho que agora faz muito mais sentido você jogar de Isis para ajudar o seu time ali. Isso daí vai dar uma ajudinha legal. Essa curtida te ajuda em algo? Eu acho que ajuda no engajamento da live stream.
Yeah, in situations where like assassins gank you, it's going to always be a buff because it was only magical protections you're getting. But against other mages, especially also if you're boosting, like your teammates that had a lot of magical protection already, that 30% more. So it definitely is a shift.
Tá chegando o momento, hein, galera do StreamCraft. O relógio não mente. Tá chegando. Quem tá na StreamCraft tá, quem não tá, não vou avisar de novo.
Merlin is on the list here. Let's see what's happening at Merlin this week. He's joining the likes of Freya. Eclipse, decreased magical power scaling of the initial hit from 60% to 55%.
Eu jogo PlayStation 4, adianta eu pegar o baú? Infelizmente não, porque o baú é pra... só vai funcionar para Xbox e PC.
From 0.5 to 0.7 and Elemental Mastery. Increase the cooldown of this ability. This is the ultimate switch stance, by the way, Elemental Mastery. Increase the cooldown of this. It was 28, scaling down to 20. It's now going to be 32, scaling down to 20 at the same end. Blizzard is a
Merlin sendo nerfado, hein?
Yeah, so each one has its targeted changes. Eclipse was one of the abilities that outside of the fire.
Arranjei um emprego, começa amanhã. Parabéns, Eliseu, cara. Parabéns, velho. Parabéns de verdade. Isso é bom, isso vai melhorar bastante a sua vida, a sua autoestima. Só não pode parar de acompanhar o canal, hein?
We've nerfed Frostbolt a lot of times. That's actually what was contributing to the damage.
Sure.
But the time to deploy Blizzard was actually the fastest deploy time of any of those of the game. So it's faster than even Anubis. Now, we've actually gone ahead and changed that and increased it by 0.2 seconds, which is going to be matching
Nerf sendo Merlin.
In the game. And that should make it feel a lot less frustrating. We're also a little bit worried that, that Merlin mains or people who played him a lot might feel this change really viscerally. Yeah. They might really, see that it's not hitting those people that they want to be hitting as often. But I think that, it's definitely an important change that'll feel less frustrating and one that people get used to.
This is an impactful change. I know a lot of these small numbers, I might say this is tiny or whatever. 0.2 seconds on a warm-up. That's enough time to dodge. That you're going to need to aim this ability differently. We've seen the stats in the feedback on Merlin. He needs some more intensity.
Como faz pra concorrer a gemas? Uma hora vai aparecer um baúzinho aí. Quem pegar esse baúzinho vai ganhar as 200 gemas. Então fica ligado. Tá quase na hora, tá? Eu não vou avisar a hora exata, mas tá quase na hora. Eu tô acompanhando aqui dos nerfs e buffs, então já fica a dica pra vocês. Ainda estou acompanhando os nerfs e buffs. Tão lindo ver a live com mais de 224 pessoas. Já pensou se fosse assim todos os dias, Wendel? Seria incrível, cara. Mas a gente vai conseguir um dia. Um dia vai ser legal. O baú acho que ele aparece na tela ou no chat, ô Rupi.
I mean, he's pretty tricky anyway with so many different stances. He just had too much damage.
Que potencial do...
out of the way. Nemesis next on the list. And Nemesis is about retribution.
Nemesis,
retribution. Of retribution from 30 to 50% of damage received.
Olha, a Nemesis recebendo um buff muito importante, cara.
So 50% of all the damage you take is going to get reflected.
50% em todos os ranks. Dá um early game muito foda pra ela, cara.
Inconsistent ways. So we're just making that ability still going to scale heavily throughout the game because it's a percentage-based ability and because the rank of the shield increases.
Sim, StreamCraft melhorou.
That's not all because we're also going to be increasing the healing of this retribution as well. It did scale up to 100%. Now it's going to be 100% at all ranks. So 50% of all the damage I take.
Nemesis, ela ficou legal, cara.
And this is 100% limited by the size of the shield.
Sure.
Yes,
which already increases per rank, so there was no reason to do this weird. It was really weird math.
Makes sense.
Nemesis just going to be
a lot more
dela
tá legal.
Through the early game.
Valeu, Lord Boom, muito obrigado, cara. Muito obrigado pela presença. Galera, só deixando uma coisa bem clara pra vocês aqui, tá? Essas 200 gemas que eu vou sortear hoje lá no StreamCraft, uma pessoa só vai poder pegar, mas é pra poder agradecer o pessoal que tá ajudando a gente tentar pegar a parceria lá. Quando eu pegar a parceria, todos os dias vai ter um sorteio de 200 gemas. Eu acho. Não tenho certeza. Ou pelo menos alguns dias da semana. Eu vou fazer igual eu fiz no Mixer. Eu fiz uma semana de sorteios no Mixer. Eu vou fazer no StreamCraft também, tá bom? Mas aí a gente vai com calma. Vou fazer uma hoje por causa do Patch Note pra comemorar. E depois a gente vai resolvendo aí. Vai ser daqui a pouco, eu não vou falar quando não. A gente tá acompanhando os nerfs e buffs ainda. Diminuído o slow, porém agora ele pode estacar 2 vezes. É um nerf, na verdade.
Nike.
Nike. Vamos ver a Nike.
Has been one of the most OP gods in the game, and no one talks about it, AJ,
Marcus,
and no one plays her.
It's crazy.
Nerfaram a
It is
Nike.
interesting. Normally, Smite players, when something's OP, they will play it.
Yes, they will.
They don't care what it takes, they will play it if they learn it's OP.
Nerfaram a
Nike is
Nike.
not that case. Nike has been putting up the best win
Depois vai ter um vídeo resumindo tudo. Eu vou fazer um vídeo resumindo tudo, mas essa live stream vai ficar gravada lá no canal. Você acha que a Afro precisa de buff? Não, acho que ela precisa de itens que melhorem o personagem, que melhorem a cura dela e tal.
It might not look like much, and these numbers you're about to see that we're nerfing are going to look like nothing.
Right.
But when you add those small amounts of percents, you multiply that by every player, by every hit, by every second the game goes longer. Her passive contributes a ton to a fight, and the problem is you don't feel that as a Nike player. So what we're trying to do is nerf that passive very heavily, and then buff the rest of her kit, as well as rework and plan of action to make her kit feel impactful.
Yeah. Well, let's go through the passive real quick, because that's already on your screen. To victory, bonus power decreased from 4 to 8%. It's now going to be 1 to 3% as you get those extra statuses. Also, the bonus movement speed.
Espero que eles buffem o personagem, né? A passiva tá sendo nerfada.
So the passive really nerfed heavily. It still
Ok, nerfaram a passiva. O personagem vai ser melhorado, não é possível, né?
Can you explain why we did it? Can you tell them the truth?
Everything else.
I want you to tell them the truth.
Everything else is going to be really strongly buffed. That's the truth.
Tell them about the 6%.
Everything else.
Tell them about it.
Through some interesting mathematical
E aí,
calculations.
Diego, beleza?
Nike's win rate is about 7%
Boa tarde.
contributed to her passive, which is like that's like a
Can
50,
I say it?
No, you can't. It's like a 50 god jump. It's like a 50 god jump.
Just look at the numbers again. 8% power percent for 5 members of your team is actually just ridiculous.
Yeah, she gives her teammates more than a patch note show buff every time they are in the game with her.
Yeah, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. So we're nerfing the passive real hard, but we're buffing the rest of the kit.
And here's the look.
Pessoa nerfar as habilidades é possível fazer isso.
Rend. This ability now always fires all 3 hits.
Olha. 3 tiros sem precisar buffar 2. Já é o começo.
It still disarms on the 3rd hit.
All the same things, right?
Okay.
All this that we're going to see is going to be because of the plan of action rework.
Plan of action is gone, so.
And that's it for Rend, as you can see. So basically,
já é um começo, já dá 3 tiros sem precisar buffar 2, né? E dá o desarme também, ok. Já tá bom. Começa bem. Habilidade número 2.
Barrier formation.
Oh, you're renaming the ability?
Yes. It's a completely
you can't
new
do
name,
that.
new icon.
It is new aim, new ability, new icon, new name. It is called Barrier Formation.
Oh, I don't have that down.
This description is old. Don't read it entirely.
Okay, why don't you describe it then?
I'm sorry.
No problem.
Me and Pod rewrote this last night.
So, okay, walk us through what this is.
This is a channeled ability. Nike channels into a new stance, her barrier formation, and summons a shield in front of her.
Okay.
This shield blocks, it absorbs, like block stacks, all incoming ranged basic attacks.
Ela vai conseguir carregar um escudo que bloqueia todos os ataques básicos que tiverem vindo na direção, cara. O escudo bloqueia todos os ataques básicos que tiverem vindo. E eu acho que ainda depois ela lança, não? Alguma coisa assim.
It also does damage and pushes enemy who get close in melee range.
What?
E depois ela empurra o inimigo.
Oh, okay.
Pra trás. E ainda dá dano. Legal, gostei, achei legal. Vai sair empurrando a galera. O caminhão do lixo chegou, tá ligado?
closer towards enemies,
Legal, vão sair empurrando os Rei Arthur pra fora do mapa.
And knocking back anyone else who tries to get into her team. So it gives her great peel. It gives her
e ainda dá danozinho no final ali.
And you can even use this in really interesting applications in Wave. And finally, when the ability finishes, or if you refire it early, it detonates in that larger targeted area at the end. So even if you don't want any of those other effects, you can just go 2-2 real quick, just for a little extra burst damage.
How long does this last?
6 seconds.
So it'll be deployed for 6 seconds.
You can cancel it
but
early.
you can cancel it early if you choose it.
Crowd controlled out of it.
And you still get the detonate when you cancel.
Okay.
So it does a lot of things. It's a very interesting, it's a very unique ability. Everyone was saying that Nike didn't have her special twist that no other god has. This ability is very interesting and has a lot of unique applications that are different to other gods.
So Block's basic attacks are
Nike sempre foi suporte, galera. A passiva dela é uma passiva de suporte. Embora ela possa jogar em todas as lanes possíveis, ela sempre foi suporte.
And you can see she has slowed movement speed and even slowed camera rotation. If you activate it and turn, it takes her some time. So it prevents sort of shake and bake type of issues or spinning the camera around max speed.
Essas mudanças chegam no game e a gente não sabe ainda. Provavelmente no próximo mês esses patch notes de mid-season demoram um tempo maior para poder chegar no jogo. Então eles vão ter mais testes no PTS.
This ability now will always travel at the fastest speed. So before you use the plan of
agora
action,
3 vai ser rápida
speed,
o pulo.
You're always going to move at that fastest speed now. And still get the knock up and.
Legal, cara, gostei.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
Será que a ultimate dela vai ser modificada também?
This ability no longer goes on cooldown if Nike dies during the warm-up time. Gain shield immediately.
We did it.
Because there used to be that issue where you could die as you were trying to ult.
Yes, so this ability will not, the gain shield immediately is old line, I'm sorry. And that is quality of life fix. The ability still has the same animation time, same everything else, it's just you won't lose the cooldown unless you get the shield.
Right.
We also adjusted the shield, everything else got buffed immediately to its plan of action. This one is somewhere in between.
Yes.
Without reading the exact numbers.
Plan of action previously was a 20% increase to the ultimate. Now it's always going to be a 10%, I believe, at all reps.
Okay.
Increase from previous numbers.
Achei legal, acho justo.
Halfway in between the plan of action versions.
So really
bora ver a ultimate.
Nike got everything that she already had, a little bit toned down of a passive, well, quite a bit toned down on a passive, but she got an extra ability to use, so to speak.
And it's effective that plan of action was on 100% of the time, which is a big buff.
Definitely, especially because the Ren's going to be.
Acho que a ultimate ela só foi.
Well, I'm excited to see how Nike works out on the PTS.
Bufada.
Yeah, please test this ability. Let us know your feedback. We would still be happy to make some small tuning changes to it. PTS, some small number of changes. It's a very unique ability, so we're interested to see how it applies.
Não vai mudar a aparência, não. Foi rework. É diferente do remodel. O remodel é a modelagem. O rework é um retrabalho no personagem. Né? Ficou legal, eu gostei desse rework dela. Acho justo.
Previously with plan of action, Ren, you were getting bonus damage per hit, and you were getting passive HP 5. So those components being removed also will help the fact that we buffed all of our other abilities.
Losing that regen
is going to be a big deal.
If you're a Nike player, you might need to itemize a little differently around that.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to have to move on as we've got still plenty more gods to go through. And the next one I'm going to mention real quick is Odin. He's going to get a small buff this patch to Raven Shout. Decreased cooldown of the Raven Shout from 15 seconds is now going to scale all the way down as you max it up to 11 seconds. And that'll just match the leap as well.
Yeah, it'll match the leap, and this is targeted towards making sure that he feels impactful outside of just being someone that drops an ultimate. That's traditionally been like his role as ult, is really countered a lot of things. We've addressed that in a lot of patches, but that made him feel a bit underwhelming.
Estão fã do Odin agora, né? Bando de safado.
Okay, that's it for Odin. We'll move on to Oleron next.
Não passaram.
Overflowing Divinity. We fixed a bug where the damage fall-off did not affect the magical power scaling on this ability. We've also increased the base damage per shot from 30 to 70. It's now going to be 35.
Bugzinho no Oleron sendo corrigido.
Increased the magical power scaling per shot from 10% to 15%. Hitting the same enemy with each shot now deals 20% less damage per shot.
Não tem cooldown se morrer ultando. É basicamente isso que estava escrito ali, né? Na hora que ela vai castar, eu acho. Sei lá. Eu não entendi direito.
Mostrou
outro chess da Hi-Rez? Não sei se a Hi-Rez vai mostrar auto chess não, viu? Ou se eles vão guardar pra mostrar lá no Hi-Rez. Às vezes eles podem aproveitar o patch note do Smite pra fazer isso, uma vez que já tem muita gente assistindo eles. É bem provável que eles lancem um auto chess sim, cara. É tudo uma questão de especulação que tá rolando ainda. Mas, conhecendo a Hi-Rez...
people are trying to run away, or it's kind of hard to hit that ability unless people are CC'd. And in those cases where players are CC'd or on minions or jungle camps, it's going to be doing less damage overall.
I think that's fair. I think the first shot isn't generally the hardest because you don't really feel it. If someone stood still, it's easy to hit, but outside of that, makes a lot of sense for all around. Next up, Rama on the list, Astral Barrage. We've shifted the damage for each
Aê! O Cryo Joker pegou as 200 gemas. Eu não falei que não ia avisar, hein? O Cryo Joker, parabéns, cara. Você ganhou 200 gemas. Ou para PC ou para Xbox. Você quer receber essas 200 gemas no seu PC ou no seu Xbox? Responde aí. Eu falei que ia ser surpresa, hein, galera. Não me xinga. O Cryo Joker pegou. Eu avisei. Tava na hora. Relaxa, durante essa semana eu faço mais um sorteio de gemas aqui, tá? O Cryo Joker foi muito rápido.
Flarebit will help you out later if you want to see those exact numbers.
You got 2 references on a show.
Essa semana eu ainda faço mais um sorteio de 200 gemas no Streamcraft aí, tá bom? Obrigado a todo mundo que tá apoiando a parceria aí. A gente vai conseguir a parceria e vai ser foda. Continue acompanhando a live por aí, né, galerinha? Não vai deixar de assistir agora lá. Já começou a sair gente, ó. Conversar faz demais. O baú de sorteio não aparece aqui a segunda vez já.
Including the professionals trying to hit all 3 snites, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, so it's just a slight equalizing.
The next one on the list is going to be Scotty, and I'm going to go a little bit more in detail on Scotty too. And she does have a bit of a rework in here too. Calder, first of all, the Winter Wolf. If Calder has 0 HP, Scotty gains 10% increased physical power.
No,
so,
don't kill Calder.
Oh no.
Dog is dead.
He comes back.
Scotty gets angry and does more damage. Calder increases hit point regeneration as well.
Se o Calder morrer, ela ganha poder, cara.
So he should be up a little bit more often.
Queria no PC? Você vai fazer o seguinte, me manda o seu e-mail aí, Cryo. Qual que é o e-mail que você quer? Que eu vou te mandar um e-mail perguntando qual que é o seu login e o e-mail da conta pra poder colocar a gema. Pra ficar tranquilo, você não precisa passar a senha não, tá? Ninguém vai te hackear não. Falei. Nossa, tá tendo um remodo.
He freaking leaps in there, son. Upon reaching the location, a
Ultimate
snowstorm also surrounds Calder, being hit by an initial hit of either snowstorm roots, enemies in the area. Calder resurrects if he is down and immediately leaps upon ability activation. You can throw the ultimate is basically what that reads, guys.
Right. This is first of all, thank you to the community for discussing with us these changes. They're very influenced by you. By Reddit, Twitter, Olympians, Pro Discord.
Eita porra.
Scotty has got us very close to my heart, so we're really happy to make her feel way better to play. We gave her an additional passive. I'm pretty convinced that Calder is as a passive.
Boa tarde, Bruno Belchior.
Now she has another one, so if you want to be a technicality, you don't have that point.
Já mostrou as skins ainda não.
And now you don't have that quality of life problem where when you send Calder in, he gets turned around at the last second. You just whiff your whole ultimate. Now you can just aim that spot. He does all of the same things, same damage, same route, same duration, same health heal. He just goes to the spot you choose. So it's going to add a lot.
Beleza, vou te mandar um e-mail aqui pedindo o login e o e-mail da conta do Smite para colocar as gemas, beleza? Do seu login e e-mail da conta para Pronto, te mandei um e-mail, você me responde lá. Mais tarde as gemas vão chegar na sua conta bonitinho. E vai ter mais, hein? Não vou avisar que horas também vai ser, não. Se vai ser hoje, se vai ser amanhã. Pode ser hoje.
Thor is getting a lot of changes this patch. What's the main goal with Thor here, guys?
Well, Thor has
já foi o baú, tava no banheiro, foi. Mas vai ter mais, eu não sei se vai ser hoje, amanhã. Vamos ver, vamos lançando umas gemas aí pra vocês. E Jardim, a Nike ficou legal, né?
as well as
new element. Nice.
Element, like, quite literally. And we just want his kit to flow a little better. We want to, I guess we.
Quero o palhacinho do Apex de volta. Quem sabe eu não jogo Apex. Thor, Mjolnir.
His kit better at what it's
Que isso, cara, me deu ciricutico aqui.
Well, let's see how this works out then. First of all,
só falar no Mjolnir.
Mjolnir's attunement. Fix an issue where players at max range would be hit by an initial hit. Sorry, not the. That's the one. Fix the initial hit by not.
But not by the return
not by the return
so this is the max
ghost
range.
hits, right?
Ghost hits, whiffed hits, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so you'd throw it out, you'd hit someone, and they'd only take one source of damage, which doesn't make any sense because if they were hit by the initial hit, they should be hit by the return hit.
Exactly.
And if they were hit by just the return hit, why didn't the initial hit
Yeah,
hit?
Pon, why?
It's fixed.
Well, we fixed it.
Better had BT.
This is another one that was tough to track down, been in the game forever, but
Took us 6 seasons, but we made it. That's the main
Well, we
thing.
hope so.
Berserker's Barrage is what we're going to move on to next. And this is an ability rework. With rework, this ability, what it says here, Thor spins his hammer around him, dealing damage to enemies in front of him up to 3 times.
Ó, ele dá giro e depois ele...
2 times. The final swing deals extra damage. Thor is immune to knock-up for the duration.
Ficou legal a animação, pelo menos, né? Vai ter live 18 horas? Acho que sim, cara. Eu pensei em fazer um campeonato com o pessoal que te segue. Eu tentei fazer uma vez, mas o pessoal, eles falam que vão, mas depois não vão. Aí fala que não pode jogar porque a mãe não deixa. Aí é mó ruim, você tenta organizar, não tem organização. E Pac-Man, chegou atrasado? Um pouco, cara.
Cooldown's lower, the damage comes out quicker. And this does a few things. One, it increases his clear speed overall as a whole. It lets him be more of a brawler. He can get in, and if you fight him more regularly, he gets this up more quickly. And also, it removes a lot of the weird cases. If you're a Thor main, you often have to know that, okay, I'm going to get 2 ticks and immediately cancel it because actually basic attacking is more efficient. Sure. And I also know I have to right-click cancel out of the final tick because the final tick lasts too long. There's a lot of weird interactions that occur with how long that...
E Felipe Jardim, obrigado pelo superchat, cara. Finalmente buff na night.
Shortening it up means it's a very responsive, snappy ability. It's useful just to quickly throw out. It doesn't interfere too much.
E aí, Light, beleza?
Combo actually flow a bit more fluidly.
O que é buff? Faz isso. Buff são melhorias, Ulisses. Buff é quando melhora, nerf é quando piora.
It does a lot of damage to multiple
E aí, Jefferson?
Yeah, but if you get silence, you get crowd control almost right at the beginning of it, you're getting almost nothing.
After testing with this, does it still feel about the same amount of damage? Has the damage gone down overall?
Damage has definitely gone down compared to a full.
Ó, a live deles travou, tá? Não foi a minha, não.
Because that number was like 1,000.
Feels like it's gone up.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it also has more time.
É que o Thor gira com o martelo, ele jogou o martelo.
Auto, which helps make up for that damage loss and actually exceed it.
Get those cancels in there.
Yeah, one last
thing is there's
actually another, a different kind of component
buffs
to this ability, which is a little bit different than anything we've done, where the third hit in front does more damage than the other 2 hits, which means you want to be tracking your enemy and also having them constantly be in front of you to get the extra powerful hit at the end.
O som da live tá atrasado. Putz, tenta dar um F5 aí, eu não consigo resetar agora não, galera. A gente vai ter que ir até o final com esse som desse jeito aqui. É sério?
Now let's get to the thunder.
Only
Tá atrasado,
Anvil of Dawn is going to have a new component. After Thor lands from his ultimate, his hammer Mjolnir is infused with lightning.
Vamos ver, um novo componente a essa habilidade. Olha, agora ele fica energizado. E finalmente, parabéns. Legal, gostei.
Enemies hit by this lightning will take 50% damage from the subsequent
Legal.
lightning.
Not only your basic attacks, but your abilities too.
Yeah, if Mjolnir hits,
Mjolnir at all hits,
which happens to be every ability, but
except for his whip, because that's not damaging anyways.
So he was getting,
tá atrasado não.
chain lightning triggers on the hammer,
ok, beleza. Desculpa então.
As well as all 3 spins. So you can get 5 lightning triggers immediately by just going with a 1-1-3.
Which is also why that rule of every subsequent hit deals 50% less damage exists, because as you can see, this can do a lot of damage, but it only works on enemy gods. So if there's minions in the way, you're not blowing everyone up.
So it won't work on minions.
Exactly.
Okay.
Nerf é quando piora e buff é quando melhora, Ulisses.
Jungle camps and things as well?
No. So
the large
count as minions.
Right. Sorry.
O atraso lá é menor,
So
olha.
just want to make sure like, you can't use it on fire giant to bounce it around people and stuff like that, right?
Yep.
Okay. So that's it for Thor.
Oh,
We've still got a couple more to go through, so I'm going to have to move along to Toth next on the
Não, mas eu
list.
acho que ficou atrasado sim, galera. Eu peço desculpas, eu não vou ter como mexer agora. Porque senão eu teria que resetar a live stream aqui. Quanto tá atrasado? A voz tá saindo antes ou tá saindo depois? Tá atrasado ou tá adiantado? Me diz aí que eu corrijo aqui manualmente sem ter que resetar a live stream.
It's now going to be 40 to 120 and lower scaling too. And hitting an enemy with this ability increases the damage they take from each subsequent shot by 20%.
Deu
Walk me
bugs.
through real quick in layman's terms what this is going to mean.
Thoth has an interesting balance history. He was never really performing that well, even when pros were picking him up, but the community feedback was strong. So he was undertuned quite a bit. We're trying to bring him back, and we're trying to focus on very specifically how we bring him
Eita, a live desse
Okay.
and that is through rewarding skill shots.
Tá
This is what
normal?
it's designed to do. So
A deles.
essentially what happened here
O
is
som tá saindo primeiro que a imagem,
Hyrule
beleza.
got
Eu vou tentar dar
nerfed.
uma corrigida aqui
Simplest senses.
manualmente.
Space damage got nerfed, which is strange, right? Okay, the god's already suffering.
Sure.
Rewarding Thoth.
Me digam se vai melhorar, tá bom?
Successive hits of hieroglyphic assault.
Okay.
So now that the base damage is nerfed, that's fine. But if you end up hitting all 3 targets, that damage is going to ramp up, and
Ok.
you're going to get up to 3
Me
seconds.
digam se vai dar uma
on the next
melhorada aí,
cooldown.
porque às vezes buga. Como eu uso dois PCs pra fazer, às
The
vezes
damage will be ramping
fica
up
sem
as you hit the
sincronia.
1, 2, 3. Gives us really
Já teve
fun
algo da Afro, não?
moment when you're fighting against Thoth.
Adorei os
You really
reworks,
wanna
principalmente da
avoid
Sked.
as you get
Todos
hit,
foram
and the
bons, né?
intensity
Eu vou
goes
depois
up,
fazer um
like,
vídeo
okay,
só
I hit
sobre os
once, I better not
reworks
get hit. Oh,
e a
Slice,
importância
okay, I
desses
really need you.
reworks aí no
Those
jogo
types of feels are
que
really
vai
fun,
causar,
as well
cara.
as lets Thoth fire the ability more often, which is really important for frustration reasons. Like one big ability that one-shots you one time, that's really frustrating. But if you get hit by 20 skill shots and you die, then you kind of understand why you died.
So if the Toth player is more effective at landing the ability, he's going to be able to fire more. But if he's not as good at landing the ability, or his enemy's juking more, you can potentially punish him for that.
Right, exactly. And
Okay.
also, because this extra rule only works on enemy gods, you're actually going to be doing less damage to minions because we did
Speedy
nerf the base
hop.
damage and the scaling. So
Okay.
that means that his extremely potent early game that he has once he gets his wall, or extremely
Melhorou?
safe and pretty high damage, is going to be less than it was before. So it's really going to help him scale up towards the mid and late game where he should shine.
Voltou ao normal aparentemente, ok, galera. Então peço desculpas aí.
We'll move on then to Raven, who's
Já
going to give us
estamos
small change this
normal.
patch, not much of one here, but Ravana,
Golpe cavalo.
10-hand
Boa tarde,
Shadow
Cristiano.
Fist, decrease the cooldown from 18 seconds to 16 seconds. I guess that's just to make him a little bit more consistent along with the other assassins.
Is key.
Okay.
And also trying to avoid buffing the things that are frustrating about him, like his evasion ability, right? Like we want to bring some power to him, but we don't want to bring back power to like his backflip that causes him to be immune to damage, or his ultimate that lets him engage really heavily. Just more consistency overall in his core game.
And the final
Havana, diminuiu o cooldown da
final
mão
god
cabulosa
to get
dele.
a balance adjustment this patch is going to be Zeus. Yes, he's the last on the list. Passive, added text to show duration of charges.
Thanks, David.
Olha, vai ter um texto para falar a duração das cargas. Isso é ótimo, porque às vezes a gente nem sabe se a carga dos Zeus vai acabar ou não. Né? Isso é legal, cara. É uma coisa boba, mas
before the
enfim.
enemy is hit with damage. Is that going to be? Notice how aggro could be heard from across the room because he knows exactly. There's going to be a little lightning storm.
Yeah,
there.
there's
Shows up.
visual and auditory.
Visual and auditory
Wait a
clarity.
second! You did a nerf to Zeus as he just got a new skin. What is this?
Right? I don't know.
How are we supposed to sell them?
So Zeus is really strong right now.
No,
We've actually
really?
been seeing him in SPL. Oh, people used to think Zeus was kind of a meme for the longest time, but he was always insanely strong in our arena, joust, etc. He's now really strong in all modes. We wanted to take this opportunity to
Podia
help
bufar o
with a key
Zong?
frustration
Não,
point,
que
visual
isso.
clarity point that this is another thing we've kind of been
Não pode
wanting to do
não.
for a long time. So detonate, you have no information that you're just going to instantly die.
Era só contrário delay.
Yeah.
You don't
Piorou?
even know Aegis. In fact,
The
it's kind of like
gamble
a
of Vegas.
Well,
like,
because it just
oh,
got nerfed as well over time, didn't it?
Right.
Because it used to
Well, you
potentially
could
have a bit more
kind
of a
of,
window.
you could see you only had 2 seconds left on the
Ficou
detonate.
pior, galera, o delay?
That's still insane. Like, that's still so narrow. So now
Yeah.
you can actually see when that first lightning bolt shows up, you can hit your Aegis and make sure that you'll prevent the actual damage.
Or
See the light
shield, or
plus
meditate, or
Shields,
shell.
meditate. You can actually see, watch the ground around the Odins as you detonate. You can see the closing circle that gives you very
Oh,
clear indicator when you're going to get hit.
Yeah,
really
so
cool.
this is technically a nerf, but doesn't actually change his damage output or cooldowns or anything in any way. It's purely visual feedback and responsiveness. So
that's cool.
if you're playing against players who are not Aegising or dodging or anything
That's
anyway,
you're
not going to notice any change.
So Skadi, Thor, Zeus, Toph. There's quite a few of
Isis,
Nike.
Apollo.
Yeah.
Nike.
Apollo.
Tá normal?
Yeah.
Ok, desculpa.
Okay. It's going to go on for days. A lot of different changes to the gods. Gentlemen, thank you so much. The main question I have right now, though, is when